And then I'll hit record on Zoom. Okay, it says it's
Okay.
up on YouTube.
Sweet. Hi, everyone.
There we go. All right, let's try this. So, are you able to see if we're live on YouTube?
Let me check it out. Probably will be able to.
Yeah,
I'm going to pull it up on my phone just because having that second screen is always really nice.
right. And welcome, everyone. We were just talking about
Welcome.
how lucky we are
All right, headed over to
because sometimes,
your thing and it says you're live. And here we are.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was just telling Helen
And
that, thank
then
goodness I had a, can you hear
I
me,
just need
Helen?
to kill that so I'm not hearing it. But yes, we are live. We are
All right.
live and I can see us.
Welcome, everyone.
Yeah,
We were just,
that's great.
can you hear me?
I can. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we were just talking about, thank goodness I got a good night's sleep because it's been a rough morning.
Yes. And we are so grateful for that better like for getting a good night's sleep, and then this is better sleep month. So talking about why it's so important to focus on our sleep for our own health and well-being and emotional stability. I mean, you got handed a whole bunch of stuff this morning and
Exactly.
had to kind of roll with those punches.
Got to roll with it. Right. Exactly. I mean, every single person has had multiple mornings where it's been, not what we planned. And we need to shift it because we don't want to carry that into the rest of the day, if at all possible.
Yes.
But yeah, there's thousands of benefits to sleeping. And I mean, we're going to talk about really just basically three things, which is the healing repair bucket, and also the endocrine system, the metabolism, just our whole physical sense. But then also the third aspect is our mood, our emotional state, our mental well-being, which again, they all blend. Like if we're talking about mental health, we're also going to talk about the brain, which is
Mm-hmm.
whole, right? So do you want to kind of get us started with maybe some of the
Sure.
healing and repair that sleep does?
Yeah, I mean, some of it's kind of obvious. I think when we talk about healing and repair, when we're talking about cuts and bruises and like bumps that we get if we run into a counter corner or, accidentally back into somebody in the grocery store or whatever it is, those bumps and bruises, our bodies heal best at night. That's when we do our repair work. It's like when the repair crews of our internal systems come out to do their work. It's when a lot of maintenance gets done in general throughout the body and cleaning. And so, and removing of toxins and those kinds of things. So we know that about healing bumps and bruises. We also know that if we're sleeping, our immune systems work better. So everyone's been in that situation where you've felt sick and like suddenly you've slept 14 hours. It's because you needed it. Your body needed it to repair itself.
Yeah, and I'm going to inject really quickly here. If we look at animals and they're
Mhm.
not feeling well, they will go find a little corner or somewhere quiet and they will sleep.
Yeah, and just to try to see if they can wake up feeling better, right? Like that, like
Well,
give their body the
they're
space and time it
healing.
needs.
Yeah, they're healing and repairing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I have a friend who has just been going for 4 months, moving her mother from a different state back to
Oh,
Seattle,
wow.
and to get her a primary care physician here so that she can move into assisted living, which they won't take unless you have a P, but then nobody's taking new patients. And so it's just been one thing after another, and then getting her moved in and finding the right place and then getting furniture. And of course, her mother's been living with her. And so she a couple weeks ago, she just got really sick and she's like, I just can't get rid of this. I don't know what's going on. I went to the doctor. He's like, he checked everything. No, there's nothing really wrong. And I said, Lisa, oh, sorry. I said, you have stressed out your body and your immune system is done,
And
which
and even if she was trying to get good sleep, she might not have been getting as good a sleep just because there was so much going on.
exactly. So that's a
Yeah.
really key factor is sleep is so vital for our healing and our repairing.
And our first line of defense. So there was a really cool experiment done where people, like 100 people were selected, generally healthy people, and half of them had reported that they slept 8 hours or more in the 3 weeks prior to the experiment. The other half had not. I honestly think it's hard to find like 50 people who have actually slept 8 hours or more for 3 weeks, but they did it. And um they voluntarily inhaled vapor that was infected with the common cold, so a rhinovirus.
Oh,
And the half that had not been sleeping well was 3 times more likely to get sick than the half that had been sleeping well.
wow, that is an incredible study.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's a couple things. One is we can go an average adult about a month without sleep, without food, about a week without water, but we can only go 3 to 4 days on average without sleep before we become what is termed insane, which means
Yes.
we lose memory, logical thought, we become psychotic.
Yeah,
So
hallucinations.
yeah, it's absolutely. So not just for our immune system, but just for survival, like we were designed to sleep.
And I've never stayed up for 3 days straight, but my husband has. There was a movie marathon type thing, like a film festival in London, I believe it was when he was living there. And so he was like, I'm going to stay up for the whole thing because it was like one price was the student price and you could see all the movies that were like all the movies you could possibly see. So he went to all these movies and so he's not even doing anything particularly, you know,
Fall asleep in the movie theater.
vigorous. Well, he was determined not to, so he had caffeinated himself and he was, going through these things. He's like, there were like 3 movies towards the end of the weekend where he's like, I have no idea what was on screen because I am certain I saw things that weren't there. Like, my experience
What?
of that movie is completely different than anyone else's. I saw things and heard voices that I knew no one else was reacting to in the theater.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, is there anything else as far as healing and repairing? Otherwise, we'll move on over to like the brain and the metabolism and
Well, I mean, I think it's really important to note that also, one of the things that happens around healing in our brains and in our bodies during sleep is we lower our cortisol levels.
yes.
And so we're sort of getting rid of those stress hormones that are go, go, go. And I mean, stress is great in terms of it helps you motivate you, it gets you moving, but you're lowering those for hopefully an 8 hour period, which allows then your body to do all the repair that it needs to do, all the cleaning and all of that. So it's just to say if you wake up feeling really anxious and stressed, chances are you didn't sleep very well and you still have a lot of cortisol going on in your body.
Yeah, and also there's other things that kind of build up in our system. And so even taking a nap or something allows those levels to go down. Let's talk a little bit about going with the 8 hours because we do want to, I mean, if we don't sleep, that even can prematurely age us. And
Mm-hmm.
also when we don't experience deep sleep, which is usually can refer to as stage 3, sometimes stage 3, 4, but it's before we go into REM, rapid eye movement, which is really like in that dream state. So
Mm-hmm.
that deep sleep, stage 3, is really what happens for us to be able to repair with the brain. So, as we're talking about the neurological aspect and the damage that happens when we're sleep deprived, that's a really important stage. And some people we're finding are not moving into those other deep stages or even a dream state. And that's a factor of dementia and Alzheimer's and other neurological memory, learning, ability to learn. So,
Well, and
again,
that's interesting. That's part of aging. When you said aging, my brain immediately went to like, I can always tell, like, you know how you like your skin feels different if you haven't been sleeping well, and like you get those bags underneath your eyes. Like, I thought you were talking about like the cosmetics of it. Like, no, you're talking deep inside our bodies. And of course, obviously, that's so important. And you can maybe recover with a little bit of moisturizer and concealer on the outside, but you have to do the work of sleep to really fix your body on the inside.
yeah. And while we're on that note, everybody take a nice deep breath. If you have some water, have a sip of water.
Yes.
So you and I also, when we were prepping for this, we talked about the amyloid, which is the beta that kind of, or the plaque, if you will, that can really build up and it tangles and also kills the brain cells. So that's another result of not sleeping well. And let's see, there was another thing that we talked about too. Oh, just like the amygdala, which again is the um ability to process our emotions and whether it's fear, sadness, happiness, it doesn't really matter. It's just that that takes that information of how we're feeling emotionally and is able to process it. So if we're not sleeping well and that essential structure is compromised, then we're not going to, which we're going to talk about emotions and so on, we're not going to be able to handle like what
Yeah.
happened this morning, which was just one chaotic thing after another, and then another mishap. Nothing that harmed anyone, but just interfered with my flow. And yet there was a part of me that was like, okay, it's a little bit different because I'm in a different environment than if it was my own home. But regardless, if I hadn't slept well last night, I don't think I could have managed it as well.
Right. Yeah, that ability to roll with the punches and be surprised and to adapt is absolutely enhanced by how well we sleep. Um, I was listening to a psychiatrist talk about the fact that when we have REM sleep, that's when we process the emotions of the events that we've experienced from the facts of those events. So feelings and facts. And if if you've had sort of a normal day or whatever, you get in your REM sleep and, you sort of divide those things up, and that makes it a little bit easier to reflect back on your day, to figure out what information you needed, what muscle memory you need to like myelinate and keep, and what you can kind of just like flush because like it wasn't important because at all 24 hours of the day you probably don't have every single hour of it documented and remembered. So that separation of the feelings from the facts or the events that actually took place is really critical, whether they're happy thoughts or particularly when it's traumatic. um, and so he was saying that he was interested in a study that was done, in the Department of Defense with soldiers who had experienced shell shock trauma, and then looking at the sleep that they reported in the days after that and how they fared long term navigating from that trauma as a result of if they were able to sleep well versus not sleep well in the battlefield during that. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it just sleep affects every single aspect of ourselves, our physical self, mental, emotional, just even our relationships, all of it. So yeah, I mean, if we think about enjoying life and being our
Yes.
best and having the emotional resilience, and again, being able to sleep so that our innate ability can process and continue to progress through life.
Well,
It's like,
yeah, and learn things, like, just to be able to take new information in, which we have to do because everything's changing. I mean, even today, we had to figure out. I mean, we've been using Zoom for whatever, 10 months now, or 9 months, and they changed the system, and it's like you had to learn how to do it over again, and you couldn't have done that without a good night's sleep. It would have been so much more frustrating.
Yeah, and I do, I do think that you can fire all on all cylinders when you've slept well. You're more productive, you're sharper, you can have the ability to learn, or at least not be frustrated. I do
Yes.
hear that, where people are like, oh, I can't keep up with it or whatever. And it's like, well, again, that's a conscious choice. And also, you might not have the ability because you are slipping from that device or that article, whatever you're doing or playing games or whatever. So I do think that part of, and this is kind of getting into the brain, but again, sleep affects everything. So
Yeah.
enjoying playing a game with someone, all of that is part of feeling good and looking good. And that also has to do with better sleep for Better Sleep Month.
Yeah, well, and I mean, when you talk about looking good and feeling good, there's there's just the fact that like so much happens with our glucose levels and what our mitochondria are doing inside of our bodies during sleep. So I just want to touch on that because I've been learning a lot about it because I was recently diagnosed. I went from being pre-diabetic to just over the diabetic line. And I try hard to get really good sleep. So I was trying to figure out like, what's happening with that. But one of the things that was mentioned is that the sleep, like a good night's sleep is really important because otherwise your glucose levels never stabilize. Like they never kind of go back down to like a good level. And especially if you're insulin resistant, as diabetics, type 2 diabetics are, anyway, the point being is that your sleep impacts just how well your whole body can create and use the energy that it has. So, if I've got a buildup of glucose in my bloodstream, that means that my body can't actually use that to make energy and get me to go.
Yes.
And
Yeah, the whole
so,
system. I know everything is
yeah,
connected. And when one thing's thrown off, then it's just a ripple effect. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
I notice too that when I don't sleep well, that I accumulate more belly fat. And there's again like a whole science behind that. And so yeah, I mean, again, I think the
Sleep
other
for weight loss is a huge thing. Yeah, like just, if you're not able to, if you're not getting enough sleep, that can really impact your weight loss. And so you can set goals for yourself with diet and exercise, but if you ignore the sleep aspect, it'll take a lot longer to, and you might not have the same level of success as you would if you were combining sleep into your efforts.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I jumped onto this topic 30 some years ago is because when it wasn't a thing, um, because my mother worked third shift and she was a single mom and she did that so that she could be with all of her children and do as
Yeah.
much as she could during the day. Well, she continued to gain weight. And people always said, and she was like an energizing bunny. I mean, she never stopped, but she also never slept.
Yeah.
And so I remember somebody said something about your mom is fat or something. And I said, it's not because of her diet or her energy.
Right. She's not sedentary.
She's right. She hasn't had enough sleep day after day, year after year. And so again, it was a misnomer. People didn't really understand the relation of that. Again, it was 30 some years ago, but that really sparked me to think. I just said it. I didn't even like have enough. I mean, of course, I was in the wellness industry and I was realizing that, smoking was, all of those things were starting to change. But I was also noticing because I was working with shift workers and my mom was a shift worker, right? And my grandfather was actually in a factory working third shift. So I had been observing that. So again, I would just say to everybody, like, one, have some compassion. And two, what can know that sleep is such a vital part of everything. And so knowing those two aspects, right? Being compassionate and having that education knowledge, then what can you do for you? Which is what you and I are always about, is like, we can give you information, but you can get that anywhere else. And,
Well, and to not beat yourself up about it. Like if you
right,
are I was
Gosh,
saying to someone else who was talking about hospital workers, because there's that, like, I mean, I want there to be a third shift in a hospital. It's super important, life-saving work that is going on there. But those workers, unless they're one of the very small percentage of people whose circadian rhythms are on the nocturnal versus diurnal side of things, they are going to need more sleep than you or I, who are operating on our diurnal schedules, because their bodies are like, whoa, something's weird here. You're doing it kind of strange. And so you're going to need to get more sleep. And that's sometimes a hard pill to swallow when you're already missing out on the
nice.
day
I
for
mean,
sleep.
yeah, exactly. And also, and then we'll kind of just wrap this up, but we were designed to sleep with seasons and day and
Yeah.
nighttime, right? Like it's only because of the incandescent light bulb 150 some years ago.
Right. Which is a blink of an eye in the humanity, like the timeline of humanity.
Well, and of our biological,
Hmm.
we just our brains and bodies are not they haven't adapted really. And I don't
Hmm.
know if they will. I mean, so anyway, I hope that this was, did we cover everything? There was a lot we had talked
We
about.
did. We covered mood and resilience. We covered learning and the ability to improve a skill. We talked about being able to roll with the punches, our metabolisms, our healing, our immune systems. So, yeah, I mean, if you haven't heard it already, it is important to get as much sleep as you can. And I'll just sign off by saying that I'm doing a challenge this month to try and get better sleep. And so I'm really paying attention. I mean, you think I would always be trying to get better sleep, but I'm really paying attention to staying on schedule for when I go to bed and wake up, and keeping that duration and making sure that I'm really honoring that 8-hour window that I mean to schedule into my day, but then maybe something scooches into it. And I am noticing that I have room to grow and that I can still get better sleep. So, wherever you are on your sleep journey, we want to just help you continue and stay dedicated to your sleep.
Yeah, and the whole idea is that maybe there was a spark of inspiration. Maybe there was just that one little thing that you didn't know or that you want to apply. And so we do our best being experts, but we're also people just like you that want to be able to impart that inspiration and some information and be on the journey with you. So thank
Yeah.
you.
So if
Yeah.
you do need help falling asleep, I'll just pitch Sleep Lists as my podcast. Check it out at sleeplist.com. It will help you fall asleep. I list you to sleep with random single topic lists that you can listen to and sort of zone out to as well.
Yeah, and I'm available for coaching. You can just go to barbarabadalati.com. So if you need some guidance with your health or even your sleep, I'm more than happy to give you some guidance. And there's even a 20-minute freebie in there. So just sign up for that and then we'll go from there. All right.
Great.
So next month we're meeting we're going to do a pajama party.
We are going to do a pajama party. I'm so excited.
I am too. So everybody wear your jammies, even if it's a recording, but not too late at night, of course. And then I think we said we're going to do it on the 18th or the 25th
The
of
25th. Yeah. We're
the
going to do it
next
on the
month.
25th, Tuesday, the 25th of June. It's at 10 o'clock. And we'll be in our pajamas, I hope, I think. Make sure I
10
can
o'clock
find like
Pacific.
my jammies.
But I'm going to be in Michigan where you and I are both from.
Yeah.
So it'll be 1 o'clock Eastern time.
Yeah.
We'll sleep well, Helen. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you. And I wish you awesome sleep during your trip to Michigan.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. See you soon.